Hey, man, welcome back to the No Hedging Podcast. I am your host, Ty the Jet. I got my co-host here, Mr.
Roof 16, the GOAT, man.
Yes, sir.
Already
We're back
legendary.
with another episode of our Week 17 takeaways and recap, man, as we are winding down the season, gearing up for the playoffs. Had a lot of interesting games, a lot of playoff implicating games.
Yeah.
A lot of teams that clinch the division and all these different things and clinch playoff spots.
Set.
But before we get into our takeaways, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you can get some more of this information and follow what our thoughts are. We want to hear some of your thoughts as well. And stay up to date with some of our videos. I want to hear a lot of y'all
thoughts, man. First of all, I'm proud of you for getting the week right this time.
Yeah, I got it right. Yeah.
But yeah, man, y'all make sure y'all like, share, comment, subscribe. It's been a long, grueling regular season, and we are closing in on the last week. But before we get into the last week, we got to talk about week 17, as you just said, man. And it was interesting.
Yeah.
But first of all, before I even get into that, go Dogs. Shout out to them for that huge victory margin. And shout out to Alabama for folding.
Hey,
Just want to say, when we talked about that college football playoff thing being bogus, Alabama reaped what they sowed and they lost.
And it showed.
UGA would have won that game against
showed.
Michigan, though.
Yeah.
I would just throw that out there. But go ahead.
Yeah, man. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about week 17 takeaways. Let's recap the week and talk about some things. So what's one of your takeaways from week 17?
Well, first of all, I got to start off with I told you so. The Browns, man.
Yeah, the Browns.
The Browns, man. They did it again. How many times I got to do it for people to believe it?
Well, it was the Jets that they played.
Okay, but first of all, people thought it was some people still thinking it was going to be a loss for them, though.
I didn't.
I had the Browns winning that game. You had the Browns. I think you did have the Browns winning that game. But they came in, they won, clinched their first playoff berth in, 16 years they said? Or was it longer? Probably longer than that. Long time. Back in the playoffs, I think it was actually 20 years. But they came through. They dominated that game. Flacco, against a good defense, still threw for 300. The vast majority of that was in the first half. They were still able to have a balanced attack against a good defense. To me, they're, like we said, we were talking about what team is dangerous in the playoffs, and the Browns definitely just solidified it for me as probably being the most dangerous team that you would go against as a sleeper team. We already know about the Ravens. We know they're going to be dominant. We know about the 49ers having the capability to be very dominant. We know about some of these teams, but the Browns in particular, they stamped that one. They stamped that one for me.
One thing that's going to get the Browns in trouble is Joe Flacco turning the football over. So he has been turning the ball over pretty frequently as well. He's been throwing the ball.
7 interceptions, 10 touchdowns.
He's been turning the ball over. So if anything is going to put the Browns in trouble and get them in trouble throughout the playoffs, it's going to be Joe Flacco turning the football over.
But with the defense playing to the level they're playing to, it still makes it hard to turn a turnover into points on that defense. So even when he does turn the ball over, he has a turnover against the Jets. But what were they able to do with it for real? Like,
the playoffs is a different animal.
Playoff is a different animal. I'm just saying they're dangerous though. And you also got to think they're going to turn the ball over to the Browns too. That defense is going to cause some turnovers. So they're dangerous. Like, even I understand Joe Flacco being older, he's still having some turnovers. It's a lot of things you could throw in there as a factor, but I'm not saying that means they're going to win a Super Bowl. I'm just saying that it makes them dangerous. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, good thing about the Browns, they were able to get the win. Amari Cooper was out. He didn't even play. He was warming up, didn't play. And then their other receiver went down, Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
He went down as well. So they out there playing with, no starting receivers. But David Njoku, he's been turning up over the past couple weeks since Joe Flacco's been there.
He's been playing like a Pro Bowler since Flacco's been there.
That's one good thing that they got rolling for him. He built a rapport with David Njoku. They still got their running backs running the football very well, and their defense is playing top notch, man. They turn the football over, they score points, and they do what they got to do to win. So,
and you alluded to something that I also love about that team is the fact that no matter who goes down on this team, it seems like they still function and they still operate at the same level. Like, I don't know if it's a next man up mentality or whatever, but they found a way to incorporate different players into their schemes offensively and defensively to fill gaps, even when somebody goes down, and still keep the ball moving. I didn't see them really fall off in terms of production, even with your top 2 receivers out.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's very dope about the Browns, man.
Yeah, the Browns. We'll see how far they go. I give them one and done.
You give them one and done?
One and done.
Well, what's your takeaway?
Lions-Cowboys, man. Let's talk about that big one.
I'm glad you mentioned it.
Lions-Cowboys. I'm going to go ahead and say it. The Lions got robbed, man. They got hosed.
The Cowboys cheated.
Cowboys had the refs on the side, paid them out before the game.
He didn't check in. They didn't even – first of all, the problem with it is they didn't even know the rule.
They didn't explain it right.
The refs didn't even fully know the rule because they couldn't even explain it.
They couldn't explain it. They couldn't explain it.
So they're talking about this lineman didn't check in on the play, and then it was like, oh, the other guy checked in, but he didn't check in, and then it was like they didn't check in. It was like what?
Then they didn't line up correctly, and all this and that.
And then the penalty they called didn't even have nothing to do with that. Like what?
It was a mess. It was a mess. But nevertheless, I do think the Lions should have won that game. I think after the penalty,
they did win.
Even after the penalty, I think if they go into overtime, they win the game. But I look at it as, and I'm pretty sure they looked at it the same way. It's like, okay, we on the road. We already clinched our division. Let's try to win this thing, and let's preserve
time out there.
Yeah, let's preserve some of our guys. Let's not go in an extra quarter to try to win this game. You know what I'm saying? Let's try to end it right here and just go home and pack it up. So. Nevertheless, the Lions, they didn't play very well until the end of the game. Same with Dallas. Dallas didn't play very well either at the end of the game. They played very well kind of in the beginning. They had one big pass to CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb did go off. He went freaking nuts. He had like 200 and over 200 yards, 220, 226 or something like that.
That man was half of the offense.
He went crazy. One play, a 92-yard touchdown.
I think he had more receptions than the rest of the team.
Yeah, I think he had like 13 catches or something like that, 226, something insane.
Yeah.
People was telling me, some guy told me that CeeDee Lamb wasn't a number 1 receiver. I don't understand it. He just said he's a slot.
How is he not?
He said he's a slot receiver that gets a lot of targets. In my opinion, that's what a number 1 receiver is. If you're going to get a lot of targets, you're the number 1 receiver. It was some random crazy hate shit that was being said.
Okay.
Don't shoot the messenger. It wasn't me.
Okay.
But nevertheless, about the game, Dallas, they played well. It was a sloppy game. It was a good game to watch because it was like a playoff type vibe. You know what I mean? I enjoyed watching that from that perspective. Like they both were just punching each other in the mouth, back and forth. But I mean, everybody knows, and I'm pretty sure the Cowboys know it too, that they should have lost that game.
Yeah.
They should have lost that game. And that's what worries me about the Cowboys. Like, they playing good teams, but situationally, when it comes down to getting that key stop or having that key moment in a big game, right, are you going to do it? And that just showed me that they won't be able to do it. You know what I'm saying? Even if they play somebody.
But we already knew that.
Yeah, we already knew that.
That's been the Cowboys' same issue for how many years now? We were saying that last season. On season 1 of No Hedging, we were talking about how every time we get a Cowboys some juice, they spill it on the damn floor.
They spill it, yeah.
So, I mean, that's not new information. They did it in the playoffs. Dak threw interceptions to it was towards the end of last season, somewhere in there. But Dak was throwing some pick sixes and timely, just costly interceptions at the wrong time. They weren't making stops. This is stuff what they've been doing, and the Cowboys have not really truly fixed that issue. And
it was crazy because Jared Goff did the same thing, right? They got the ball back. So this is what happened. The whole Cowboys breakdown, right? Cowboys, they got a minute and 40-something seconds on the clock. You know what I'm saying? They run the ball, then they throw the ball. They throw the ball on 2nd and 14, and they stop the clock with a minute and 40-something on the. mind you, Detroit still has 2 timeouts or something like that. That is like key crucial things that you don't do in crucial situations, right? You should have ran the clock down. Now you gave the ball back to Detroit with enough time on the clock to run down the field, score, and put themselves in that position.
Right.
If you would have did what you were supposed to do,
They shouldn't have got the ball.
they shouldn't have got the ball back, or they shouldn't have got it back with that much time to go down the field, right? Granted, Jared Goff did, throw a pick when they got the ball back the first time initially. Terrible pick. But he was still able to take his team down the field, make some throws, and get them in position to score a touchdown to potentially tie the game up at the end. But that's Dallas' downfall, right? In crucial moments, situationally, when it's time to end the game and close the game out, they keep the door open for the opposing team. And the opposing team, 9 times out of 10, usually comes through and makes something happen if they're a good team.
Right. And they did. Unfortunately, the refs found a way to take it away from them.
Right.
So that was tough. It was tough to watch. It felt like the Lions got screwed when I was watching it. But, I mean, those type of things happen to those type of teams, especially when it comes to Dallas, Alabama, Roll Tide. But karma always comes back.
What else you got?
Another one I got is the NFC South got shook up.
Yeah.
The Saints went out there and really just
handled business.
They pummeled them defensively.
They had
the Buccaneers could not move the ball.
The Saints had control of that game for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, they did. They did. Baker started making some passes and they started getting some motion and traction down the field. But when I tell you they were not moving the ball the vast majority of that game, and it was like, what is going on? Like, y'all can't even get a first down. Mm-hmm. Like, it's ugly. So, watching that and watching the very low amount of total offense they were getting, especially in the first half, the Buccaneers, usually against a team 500 or less, they are way better.
Yeah.
So even if the Saints did win, I didn't expect them to be so commanding with the win. And actually, 23-13, the score looks closer than it actually was.
Yeah. It was a garbage time.
That 13 was surprising that they even got that. Because it was 20-0 for like
the whole
game. Fourth quarter.
Yeah, especially for them to do it on the road at that, right? You know what I'm saying? With Tampa coming off of those good wins and.
That's 2 division games that Tampa lost at home.
Terrible.
The Falcons beat them early in the season, too.
They did.
And the other part of that, the Falcons, well, I mean, we can mention since we said NFC South, the Panthers are still a part of it. The Panthers put up a goose egg, but we knew that the Panthers' offense is garbanzo.
They have nothing.
They don't. Yeah. I'm surprised the defense gave up 26. That's the most surprising takeaway of that because the defense
to CJ Beathard.
Right.
Yeah.
But whatever. Panthers getting the number 1 pick, and they're giving it to the Bears. Now, the Bears played against the Falcons. What I did not think about when we was picking is they had to play in the fucking snow. And when it came to kicking at the beginning of that game,
Young Ho Cool. He couldn't make nothing.
My boy Younghoe missed twice.
He missed,
at the beginning. That game should have been closer than that towards the beginning. Now, second half, it got away from him. But it was 2 field goals. I think it was a field goal and an extra point or something that got missed early on in that game. And it was like, oh, I see what's happening. The Falcons, it's too fucking cold for them, right? Bro, they're not prepared for this shit.
Like I always said, like I've been saying, and I'm going to stand on it. I've been saying it, and I'm going to stand on it, bro. They are not a good road team, especially outside. So you pairing that up, they're not a good road team. They playing on the road, and they playing outside. Granted, they're playing outside in Chicago. Now you're going to add snow on top of that. Man, them boys was out there looking like they ain't belong out there.
They was looking cold.
They were looking cold.
They looked cold.
They did not want to be out there. I
especially in the first half.
I knew weeks ago that Chicago was going to get that dub.
They look cold.
Yeah. And then they tried to settle in later on, but at that point the game was already
too far out of hand.
You know, they tried to settle in when the snow stopped.
But that lines up for a very interesting week 18. The Saints play the Falcons, so the Saints are in a position to try to win. But I mean, how much do we trust
Either team.
Either team to
Because
win
Saints, the Falcons going to be on the road.
Falcons going to be on the road, but they're going to be in the dome, though.
Yeah, it'll be in a dome, but it's in New Orleans.
It's in New Orleans.
You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know.
I don't know if the Falcons contracts have incentives for beating New Orleans or something, but they should. But but we're going to see. It makes it very interesting down there because I think that still puts the Buccaneers and the Saints in a position as far as playoff standing, who going to win the division at that point, because now
all the Falcons can do is spoil it.
The Saints, and who's better to spoil it for?
Right.
So, very interesting takeaway for me. But what else you got?
Y'all already know where I'm going with this. Big trust, Lamar Jackson, Action Jackson.
50 ball.
LJ8, man. Beating the brakes off of the Dolphins. 18 of 21, 321 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, a perfect passer rating of 158.3. In a big win, 56-19 at home versus the Miami Dolphins, solidified his MVP. Big time.
Yeah.
Big trust, man. So all the doubters out there talking about Lamar Jackson not the MVP. They talking about the stats and all this and that. It's all about impact, man. You got the best record in the National Football League. Granted, your defense does help you. That's part of it. It's a team sport. You can't go out there and win it by yourself. But in big moments, on the road against San Francisco, they put up a big number against the 49ers, which was the best team in the NFC. Then you go and play probably the second best team in the AFC, which is the Miami Dolphins, at home, and you dominate them. So we're going to say Lamar Jackson solidified that MVP with that performance. It was fantastic. The Dolphins didn't have no answer for it. He was just throwing the ball across the field. That defense did not show up. Miami, they struggled. Once again, Miami struggling on the road to a good team. They did endure some injuries. Your boy Bradley Chubb, torn ACL. He's out for the season. That's not good. Xavier Howard, he got hurt. And you mentioned both of those guys last week. And and those guys got banged up. Tua got nicked up a little bit too, I think. But, the Ravens, that's what they do. They're going to beat you up. They're going to beat you up. And that's exactly what they did to the Miami Dolphins. Miami had no shot coming into that game. I saw it from the beginning. Oh, yeah, Jalen Waddle wasn't playing as well. So they was already kind of man down coming into that game.
Right.
And, like I said.
Tyreek Hill coming back.
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle going out.
Yeah.
ACL injury to Chubb on defense. Xavier Howard going down. On both sides of the football, basically you are kind of stifled in terms of what you can do, especially for a team that on offense is so predicated off of speed and how quickly they can do everything from the quarterback's release time to your receivers getting off the line. But a lot of that is made possible by the fact of you got to watch 3 people with 4.2 speed every play because the running back can take off. You got 2 wide receivers that can take off, and the quarterback is getting it off in 2 seconds or less. So
the secondary got cooked, man.
For the Ravens to stop that still, even without Waddle, they're still formidable. For them to stop that and be so dominant on both sides of the football, definitely solidify everything in terms of them being the top team in. They're clearly a top team in the AFC, but they might be the top team in the whole NFL.
Ain't no
after these 2 games they just got.
Yeah.
They kind of solidified that, and Lamar definitely solidified his MVP, so I have no argument with that at all.
It was a good game starting out, too. It was back and forth, score here, and then you get a turnover, and then that's when the game kind of.
But it kind of looked like the Dolphins were chasing to keep up with the Ravens versus they're going back and forth.
Yeah.
And after a while, they just couldn't because the Dolphins didn't stop. I think by the time Zay Flowers got that 75-yard screen, it was over with. It was over with by then.
Yeah, Lamar was just throwing that thing across the field.
Odell
man.
catching
Everybody
the ball,
catching the ball with one hand.
Cool.
Isaiah Likely catching one with one hand, taking in for a touchdown.
It was over with.
Patrick Ricard, the fullback, taking one in the end zone with one hand. Zay Flowers taking one down the sideline. Odell making a
Ricard's
crazy catch.
was the same catch that the
Nuts.
Lions were supposed to beat the Cowboys with,
Right.
ironically. But but yeah, I have no argument with that. He played a phenomenal game. Big trust solidified.
Big trust. Appreciate you, Lamar Jackson, man. Listen, I'm about to get your jersey because you cashed in on my future bet. I had you at plus 1,200, 12-1 odds, man. Put that in September, man. I got the ticket if you guys want to see it. No cap.
I want to see it. My other takeaway, man. What the fuck happened with the Cardinals and the Eagles?
Oh man, Philly.
Philly. I don't know what's going on. Like, I looked and I knew something was just jacked up because when they showed A.J. Brown sitting on the sidelines and the Cardinals are having this go-ahead score, he's looking like he saw this coming. Like, he's like, he knew this was going to happen. So it's like, I don't know how they got so deflated or so depleted or what happened to them after Thanksgiving, but the Space Jam Monstars, did they come down and take their talents through the football, or what the hell happened?
Bro, what I saw in that game is the Arizona Cardinals just out-physicaled them, man. They ran the ball down their throat. I think they rushed for over 200 yards against them. You know what I'm saying? And it just boils back to what we've been talking about with Philadelphia for the past month and a half. Is their defense, man. Their defense has just been letting them down. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not stopping the run. If you're not going to stop the run, you're already you losing half the game right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you can just tell they were way more physical. They out there shaking dudes. One highlight, running back shook somebody out his shoes, man. It was just crazy. Missing tackles. James Conner catching one-hand passes in the end zone. You know, they were just very dominant in the run game, and they were very physical. And that's what the Cardinals have been all season. They've been very physical. And you got to remember, this was a game that the Gannon, the head coach of the Cardinals, he used to be the offensive coordinator for Philadelphia last year. So he knows he's a defensive coordinator. I'm sorry. He's been a defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. So he knows kind of what Philadelphia is about. You know what I'm saying? He was in that organization. So it was just a bad loss of Philly. They really needed that loss to turn around.
How many bad losses, though? Are they going to take going into the playoffs? And that's another home loss?
At home.
Like, it's a lot. It's something seriously wrong over there. And this is not the time for things to be going wrong.
Yeah, and you can tell things are wrong. They trying to change things up. Like, they changing out the defensive coordinator. They trying to change that up. It's a lot going on, man. They started bringing in that's when they brought in Kevin Byard. They knew something was up with their defense. They started working on it mid-season. So, Philly, they in trouble. I think they won and done in the playoffs as well. I mean, you go up against a Detroit team or you go up against a 49ers team.
Any of the playoff teams.
Even the Rams, they play the Rams, they can get them.
So really cooking them. At this point, they're in danger with whoever they play against, just because the way they're playing is not going to work.
They gave up that
playoff teams.
They had a lead, they just gave it up.
Yeah, that was ugly. I don't even know what to make of that. I just wanted to ask you because I'm trying to get clarity.
It's the defense, bro. It's the defense, and I think defensively they're not stopping anything like we talked about last week. And then offensively, they're not running the ball like they should. Right? They need to give the ball to Swift, run the football more with Swift. And that'll open up the pass game. Take more pressure off of Jalen Hurts. You know what I'm saying? You don't want Jalen throwing the ball so much. You know what I mean? Because I think he's banged up anyways.
Yeah.
But everybody's banged up. But nevertheless, you want to help him out by not putting the ball in his hands so much. You know what I'm saying? Take pressure off him. Run the football. Be physical. Control the clock. And that's how Philly wins games.
I feel it, man. I feel it. My last takeaway that I had too is I wanted to get your opinion on this is Russell Wilson's Broncos situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they want him to take a pay cut, or they want him to restructure his contract.
Yeah.
I heard the holdup was a lot with the injury guarantee that he has in there. That Russell's like, no, I'm not taking that out.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like I agree with him. Stand on it. That was the agreement that y'all made in contract.
If you ain't like it, you shouldn't have said it.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm not mad at him for not wanting to do that. The fact that they are
But are they
benching
throwing a
him.
hissy fit because he still wants to get paid if he gets injured?
They don't want to guarantee that
Well, why would you put it in his contract?
because they thought he was the guy before they got him.
Okay, but he hadn't been injured. Now y'all just fishing for some money back.
They fishing for some money back because they plan on moving off of him.
Right.
So they don't want to pay somebody guaranteed money that they don't plan on being committing to as a starter.
But what does that have to do with Russell Wilson?
It has everything to do with him because he's not performing like they expect him to perform.
But
right?
I'm saying, as far as Russell Wilson's money and his contract goes, if you want to move on from me, what gives you the audacity or makes you feel like you have the right to then take back some money that you agreed to pay me because you don't like the performance that I've been having? Even though at one point he was just winning a bunch of games. They won like 5 out of 7 games or something like that. He was winning games.
5 in a row, yeah.
So my whole thing is you're doing this now because you want some money back and you're deciding that you want to move on from him. But my whole thing is I'm like, bro, y'all knew what y'all were getting when you got the quarterback. He was already an older quarterback. He was formerly a top tier quarterback. But one of the reasons Seattle wanted to move on from him because they weren't getting the production anymore. So you taking a chance because you want to come in with a veteran quarterback. You want to come in with a whole new coach, new system, all this blah, 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 blah. And you're not exactly getting the best results out of it. But they were a fighting team and they were in contention for a long time.
Yeah, but like that last game, what happened? The game that they played against the Patriots, bro. That was the straw.
Don't even get me to talking about that game again.
That was the
whole
straw.
game was capped, though.
They felt like how you felt about that game.
But was that Russell Wilson's fault?
Bro, it was a lot of his fault because when you watch tape,
look at the play calling.
Play calling.
Why are they calling runs?
From what?
Who's calling 2 runs and you down by 2 touchdowns in the third quarter or in the fourth quarter? Who's calling these plays?
I don't know. What I see when I watch him, bro, I ain't gonna lie to you. I see that he holds the ball a little bit too much. He's not pushing it down the field. When they played Jarrett Stidham,
who's his receivers?
I mean, when they played Jarrett Stidham, he was letting that bitch rip down the field.
I like Stidham.
He was
I don't have a
rip.
problem with Stidham. When they said they put Stidham in, I'm like, oh, okay. I like Stidham.
He was letting it rip.
I didn't have a problem with that. However, all I'm saying is he's going into this game, that game in particular, you're going into a very tough Patriots defense, first of all. Stidham letting it rip, but he's letting it rip against the Chargers.
They were 3 and 11, 3 and 4, 3 and 12.
You're talking about Stidham letting it rip, but Stidham was letting it rip against the Chargers. Russell Wilson was going against the Patriots.
Right.
Those defenses don't even live on the same planet.
That's fair.
So him throwing down the field is easier when you have a game plan against a lesser defense versus you losing your top receiver during the game and you're going against a top defense. Yeah. So to me, I didn't look at that and say, oh, Russell Wilson is blowing this. I look at it as like, oh, this is terrible play calling for one. Why are y'all trying to run the ball against the Patriots and not throwing it downfield and you're down?
Yeah.
He had some fumbles, some script sack fumbles. If you want to call that his fault, okay, cool. I can accept that. But, I mean, where's the O-line's fault in that? How are they getting through and getting to me that fast?
I'm going to say it like this. I mean, I don't agree with it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's business. And that's how they looking at it. They looking at that checkbook saying, hey, listen, we don't plan to have Russell here for the next 2 or 3 years. So, hey, Russ, let's go ahead and restructure this. We still can have you on the team, but we're going to restructure it. And he was like, nah. So they're like, all right, bet. We out. That's it. You're done. You know, so I get it from both
Russ,
angles, and I don't blame. I mean,
I just think they got some big nuts to come over there.
Hey, they asked. I get it. I get it from the business side of things, but as a player, from the player's standpoint, I don't like that. That's not fair.
Less money.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not fair at all.
Especially late in his career, he's got to stack up for retirement at this point. What the hell?
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not taking less money.
Nah.
Bye.
But yeah, man, that's our takeaways from Week 17, man. A lot of different playoff implications. We got some teams that locked it in, And we still have some open spots on both sides of the each conference.
Yep,
You know what I
2 or
mean?
3 on each side.
So we'll see who gets in. Week 18, you're gonna have a lot of players that's gonna be sitting out. You know what I'm saying? A lot of coaches sitting their players, especially on those teams that already clinched the division spot. So they're gonna be chill.
It's gonna make week 18 kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a weird.
There's also
week.
some players playing for some contract incentives.
Yeah.
Right now, so it's some people trying to get some receptions, and as much as people are aware of money, they're fully aware how many receptions and how many yards they need to get. So you best believe it's guys like DeAndre Hopkins coming out for his 50 yards.
It's prop week.
He needs his receptions.
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz need like 4 receptions. There's some guys need some. So it's a good week for props coming up. It's gonna be very interesting, but we definitely gonna get into that when we step into the rundown.
Yep. So make sure you guys stay tuned for the rundown that's coming up next. But until then, man, make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.
For sure,
and we'll see you on the next one, man. We out. Peace.